Good evening. This is Villa Park Traffic and Safety Committee. It is May 6th, and we're going to start off with roll call.
May 6th. May 6th.
I corrected myself.
Oh, sorry, I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
Cuthbertson,
Yes.
Di Tomaso,
Here.
Flaskamp, Little,
Here.
McMurray, Carl Timmerman, Karen Timmerman, Wagner,
Here?
Chairperson Pincos.
Here.
Item number 3, amendments to the agenda. Do we have any amendments? Yes, Bob.
Chairman Pincos, I'd like to ask that we add an item to the agenda, the traffic impact study for the union, just as to provide updates and information about the project.
So you would like to put it on for today?
Yeah, specifically just for information purposes.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments about that? Okay, so we will not give it
We just need a motion and a second.
Requires a second.
a second.
This is, I would actually, we already have an agenda item for the traffic at that area. Wouldn't this be just be part of that?
I'm just double checking. I don't think it specifically
I'll second.
does that, I'm answering the other one, but second.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, I don't know that it needs to be another agenda item.
I don't think we're specifically talking about that item of the new development, which will be something different.
Traffic and parking on Wildwood east of Euclid to Villa Avenue. Item G, number 910.
I'm not agreeing with it because I think there's going to be a whole different study for that in reference to it. And I don't think that's what we're talking about at the moment. We're talking about this as being the situation from parking from,
Traffic and parking, it says.
yes, but that does not have, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't think it's addressing the situation of what's going to happen at the development there.
Well, that was my intention when I brought it up at last meeting, to add it to the agenda.
Okay, just back.
So the traffic impact study for the union encompasses much more than parking on Wildwood. It encompasses traffic on Villa Avenue and the intersections surrounding it. So I think it would be good for us to get updates on it, it's probably going to come to us in the future, so, I think I think it'd be valuable for us to have more information about it as it becomes available.
I agree, because it will affect the,
I'm not questioning that we need to be looking at the traffic study. I'm just saying we already have an agenda item that covers it.
it does not cover what Bob is saying. It will cover Villa, the intersections that are affected on Villa, on St. Charles Road, and certain other areas down on the east side of Wildwood, of Villa. It's going to affect all of that area,
Which is why we wanted to add this, was to cover the whole stuff with the Union, the rec center, all the traffic associated with it, Villa, Wildwood. I'm just saying, this is already covered by another agenda item.
originally, the way we looked at it, we talked about it in reference to the new recreational facility that was developing over there and that is now open, and the patterns that they were going to have and the possible patterns eventually of the parking from this development, if it happens. But we don't know if it's happening,
Right?
okay? It may just go dormant,
Yeah.
okay? So we looked at this, as my understanding is we're looking at this as totally separate.
Okay.
Okay, so we had Bob, motion, and second by Tricia. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And we're gonna create that as a new business for today.
Okay.
It'll be item number 912. Is it gonna be officially called the Union, or is it gonna be some other, you know, Bob?
I think it's going to be called the Union, as far as I know.
It is.
That's my understanding as well.
Okay. Union Development. So I'm calling it Traffic Study for Union Development. Okay. Do we have any other amendments to this agenda? Okay, we're gonna go to item 4, public comments on agenda items. Donna, I believe that's you. We are gonna ask everybody if they could just keep it to 3 minutes. So make it short and sweet, and then we'll go
It'll be
from
short and sweet. I know for the Lufkin Crossing, it's all depending on what goes on in Ardmore, but just some observations, and I've noticed 2 of them in the last week. I think the best avenue to go is Van Buren Crossing, put up concrete there for people to enter towards the pond. It was coming home from Home Depot today and coming over Rand, which goes into a kind of like a valley. And I stopped because people were coming from the east, crossing to go to the park. And when you're coming over that hill, they're at speed and they don't see what's below them. If you're coming from the north going south, I was going to send pictures and I can still send them. Right across from the park, they were crossing on someone's driveway. That's one house and the size of our bathroom and then the parking lot. So if they're coming from the north or coming from the south, they're coming off a hill, and I think the slower speed is going to be at Van Buren.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, because, I mean, I know enough to, because I've lived in this area for 10 years, and I know that park is there because I live on it. But coming south and coming north, if people don't know that park's there, even though there's a teeter-totter sign, coming off the hill, north and south, I think the best place is at Van Buren. Take a ride and check it out.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. And if I don't make it through the meeting tonight, I'm going home and going to bed because I'm tired. But I'll watch the rest.
All right.
It's the First Street.
Okay. Thank you, and I think that's where we were originally talking about.
Yeah, but I
we're
didn't know how things have changed with the Ardmore study and stuff, but
That is in the process of being taken care of at the moment, I believe. If you notice, they have done surveying marks out there and different other marks that have put out there, so they are in the process of starting.
Kevin, too, they actually, like 3 houses into Rand Road on the west side, they had a traffic camera in there, and I called Guerrero and I said, the only people that come in and out of that street are the neighbors. I didn't know why they were monitoring the traffic, and then the next day it was gone, so I don't know if it was
That was
air.
on Rand? You said several houses in?
Yeah, it was like 2 houses, 3 houses in.
That I don't know.
Camera by the 25-mile-per-hour speed limit, like going into the neighborhood.
Did it look like the other ones that had been out along the corridor? Okay. I don't know why it would have been that far west.
I figured it was just done in error, because the next day it was gone.
Okay. I can reach out and find out, but no, I don't imagine it would have been necessary for this
It's down,
project.
but it just kind of piqued my curiosity.
Understood.
Thank you. We're gonna move, any more, public comments on agenda, excuse me, agenda items? Okay, we'll move on to, number 5, public comments on non-agenda items. Andrew?
Hi, my name is Andrew Collinson. I'm at Harvard in Washington. Sorry, I'll talk louder. On that intersection, couple things, I put a couple on there. One, we have the bus route there, and I don't know why we have the bus route going through Villa Park, because if you look at their route, everywhere else it goes on a busier street. We're the only residential town that has it go through a residential street. So I'd like to get that looked at for one. The buses are quieter, but they do run the stop sign, and during the day, that's a school zone. Also would like to see about doing something to slow traffic in that area, especially with the construction that's going on Madison and the side streets. The traffic that goes by right now, I'll sit at home working, just looking out, and I can hear when cars don't slow down and they just fly right through the intersection. And it's not that they can't see the stop sign per se, but all that additional traffic, people just fly by. And since I've lived there, there's been at least 3 crashes, 2 where people were hit. So I think it's something needs to be looked at that intersection. And I know that it's 2 main thoroughfares through there, but you know, even if you want to look at putting a roundabout in there, I would be up for that. Something to slow people down, because people fly through there all the time.
Okay.
So that's it. It's Harvard in Washington. So, and I have a map if you guys want to see the routes.
I think it's easiest for the, knowing a little bit about the bus, it's easiest for that, because they come in off of like Route 80 or off of Villa, and it's a straight cross, rather than go left, right, and they cut down to what, Westmore and go south.
Right, but when they redid the bridge over to Salt Creek, they went down to Roosevelt.
Yeah.
So they would get more people either going to Roosevelt or staying on St. Charles rather than having to cross. Because if they turn off of, or if they come down St. Charles, all they have to do is go from the right lane to the left lane at
Did-
Myers.
Do they pick up people going down Washington to Westmore, taking them to Yorktown? It'd be a little difficult for them to get on the bus if it's down at Roosevelt.
You could put it at St. Charles, which is 3 blocks away. I mean, if you want, I requested pre-COVID when the route was changed to Roosevelt to get a study of ridership, and the Pace or RTA or whoever never got back to me. There's not many people on that bus route. I mean, if you see 3 people on a bus, that's a lot. I just don't think there's value to having it on residential streets when you can go north or south and get more people.
All I know is that you're going to have to end up talking to Pace themselves and the regional transit area here. So it's not an easy,
No,
say, fix if you're looking for that.
but it's been done before.
I don't, who knows what's going to happen shortly, because they are losing different funds and stuff, so. Okay, thank you.
Do we want to do anything about Harvard and Washington?
We'll discuss it as we get to new meetings,
Okay.
or new business, I should say. And I assume there is no other comments on non-agenda items, and we're going to go on to item 6, Bob on his report for Bike, Pedestrian, and Transit Subcommittee.
Thank you, Chairman Pincos. The Bike, Pedestrian, and Transit Subcommittee met on April 24th, and we discussed some activities that the Bike, Pedestrian, and Transit Subcommittee will be involved in during May, which is Bike Month. There will be a smart cycling class that will be held at Jefferson Park Pool this coming Saturday from 11:30 to 1:30. That's through Parks and Rec. We will be holding a ride of silence again. It will start at the Villa Park Police Department. We typically have a route through town, and then we join up with the Elmhurst Bike Club. And then we'll be doing a bike registration and bike safety event in cooperation with the Villa Park Police Department. That'll be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., and that'll be at the shelter on the Prairie Path by the Historical Museum. It was mentioned that the Active Transportation Alliance is holding their commuter challenge, bike commuter challenge, which will be from May 19th through June 15th. Usually teams of groups, individuals. I know the library at one point had a team of folks, and they register their hours, and there's kind of a healthy competition for that. There was some discussion about Project Sidewalk, and I think I mentioned this before. Project Sidewalk is something that sponsored by the Active Transportation Alliance. It's not being, the Bike Pedestrian Transit Subcommittee is aware of it, but there's kind of an arm's length between that and the village for a variety of reasons. So the mapping activity took place on April 13th. I believe it was at the library. There were 12 people present, present-elect. Patrick was there. I believe Commissioner Di Tommaso stopped by for a few minutes. They had a pretty successful event. They mapped 20% of the town. So, once again, that's something that's at arm's length from the village because of, I guess, liability issues, whatever. And then there was some discussion of legislation that Ride Illinois, which is the bike advocacy group in the state, is sponsoring or concerned about in the General Assembly. And I won't get into that right now, but that kind of summarizes our meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Nope. Okay, we'll move on. Approval of the minutes. We're looking at approving the minutes of February 4th. Has everybody looked at it? Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Di Tommaso?
A second?
I'll second.
Tricia. All in favor
I
say,
have one correction discussion.
okay, I'm sorry. This is on the 4th, right?
Yeah, on the fourth, right.
They're both.
Just wanted to mention that it says that the Illinois Bike Summit is on May 21st. That's not correct. It's going to be May 7th and 8th. On that under six presentations.
Okay.
That's the only correction I would want with.
Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
With the correction? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Okay. And you said the 4th? You got 4th, no, separate one. They're both the 4th. Oh. Okay. All right. Moving on to old business. Oh, March 4th, I'm sorry. Gotcha. March 4th, approval of the minutes for that one. Any comments? Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Di Tommaso.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? Okay, moving on. Now we move on to old business. Item 902, stop signs at Elm and Princeton. I don't know if we want to talk about that at the same time we're talking about the other one or not. But we got them two separate agenda items. So, stop sign at Elm and Princeton. Any more comments about that?
Chairperson Pincos?
Yes.
If commissioners will recall, I believe it was the January meet? No, it wouldn't have been January, perhaps February meeting that, or March, that we provided a traffic crash report summary for both intersections. Commissioners noted that there were some locations shown on it incorrectly, which we attributed to the IDOT database being shown in the wrong location. So we have updated those and provided revised maps of crash reports at those two intersections. Additionally, we have now added to the commission's packet a report on the traffic count studies that were conducted at both intersections. I apologize, we still do not have the full all-way stop control warrant study and documents that we had promised to provide. Hopefully, we will have those by next meeting, but we at least wanted to get all this information in front of the commission for review.
Okay. So I'm going to jump ahead really in reference to this. So that would be the same situation with 903 with the stop sign at Elm and Princeton? Okay. And we're still waiting for the reports on that one too.
The full all-way stop control warrant study report, yes, of which these traffic count studies and traffic crash summaries are a part.
Okay. Do we think we will have it at the next meeting?
I hope so. These pieces of the puzzle that we put in here are probably the lion's share of the effort. So getting it over the finish line by the June meeting in 4 weeks, I think, is reasonable.
Okay. Yes, Joe?
I just want to make sure I'm reading these correctly. I'm looking at the traffic study pages that are on here, specifically West Elm Street, west of Princeton.
Okay.
Can you give there's a bunch labeled that. Can
I'm
you give
sorry,
a page
I
number of the
apologize,
packet?
28, I'm sorry.
Page 28 of the packet, thank you.
On the, under speed, am I to understand we had 75 cars, 21 cars traveling over 75 miles an hour?
I would say no. The traffic counters are not, let me back up, please. The traffic counters that we used are not anything like the ones that residents likely noticed in the Ardmore Avenue corridor over the past month or so. They're based on magnetic register of the vehicles that pass them, and a lot of times they will register speeds incorrectly, in particular at that top category of speed level. I doubt sincerely that there was 21 vehicles going more than 75 miles an hour.
But would it be reasonable to assume, even though they may be inaccurate, that they're not terribly off?
I actually think it probably is significantly off. If you look at the
Okay.
11, 4, and then 2 tapering down and then up to the 21, I think it's, was there 1 or 2? I can't say that there was not, but I don't think it's anything close to that 21.
Okay.
Yes, Bob?
Just my observation is that, okay, there may be some inaccuracies, but there's a significant number of vehicles going over the speed limit.
Yes.
I would agree, and seemingly significantly over the speed limit.
Well, what I'm going to suggest is since there's a lot of information in here about it, for these two items, 902 and 903, that we take some time, look it over, and we'll hopefully have the study on our June meeting, and then we will be able to make some intelligent comments.
I agree.
Okay.
I'll make that motion to push it to the next meeting.
Okay, any seconds? And we're talking about items number, we're gonna combine this, items number 902 and 903.
Correct, 902 and 903.
Yeah, I'll second the motion to set these aside until June.
Okay.
Second by Wagner.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, getting down to item 906, crosswalks across Ardmore Avenue near the Lufkin Pool. We heard her comments today. Kevin, I think you can give us an update on what's developing on the study out there.
Sure. Specifically regarding Lufkin, we are scheduled to get the pedestrian study completed sometime this month. And when I say completed, I mean the cameras being out there and actually collecting the data. It will take some time afterwards for the consultant to compile it and review that information. But this month is when the cameras should be going up, either next week or the week after.
At that, in front of the park?
Correct.
I have a question.
Yes.
There's been some discussion online about the traffic study that's ongoing on Ardmore, the cameras that have been up already, with people inquiring about whether they're only catching data on vehicles or whether they're catching pedestrians as well. Are those ones doing the whole comprehensive, looking at all of the traffic, including modalities other than motor vehicles, or are those ones simply monitoring motor vehicles?
You know, I don't actually know. I can reach out to our consultant and get an answer on that, though.
Yes, Pat?
Yeah, I did kind of examine one of those
Cameras?
devices, I can't, it was Emotiva or something like that.
Okay.
And there's a camera up on a large mast.
Okay.
Yeah, I would hope that they would capture pedestrian and bicycle traffic as well.
As far as I know, a lot of them do, but I don't know what this one specifically is doing.
And this was something that was requested, is it Civil Tech that is handling the engineering?
Yeah, so the Phase 1 engineering study for Ardmore is being conducted by Civil Tech, and the traffic counts, traffic studies are required as a part of that Phase 1 process with IDOT.
I have one question, Kevin. Mm-hmm. Did we ask them to specifically look at the pedestrian traffic too at the time?
At Lufkin, yes. To Tricia's question, though, I don't know. I'm not clear on whether the remaining cameras were expected to pick up pedestrian counts as well, pedestrian, cyclists, what have you, or if it's strictly the ones in the Lufkin corridor that were.
Okay. That's what he's going to find out. And I have noticed, in reference to pedestrians going up and down that street in the last several weeks, several times, many times during the month, people are walking across anywhere along that stretch from the high school all the way down to Jackson. I mean, there's no, I can't see a pattern in reference to it. It's just whenever they feel like crossing the street, they go ahead and cross it. So, hoping that study maybe goes the distance that we're looking at.
Excuse me.
I will find out.
Any more comments on this one? We have a motion to leave this on until the next meeting.
I'll make that motion too.
Second?
Di Tomaso?
I'll second that motion.
Wagner.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? Okay, item 907, Drive Like Your Kids Play Here signs. We do officially have them in the, on the premises somewhere. I don't know exactly where, but they did come in, I believe, Monday, or it was late Friday. It was one of those days. But we do have 200 new signs available. And Kevin, we were talking about several places to be able to place those signs. Do we have a idea where we're going with those yet?
Yeah, I wanted to have the commission provide some direction on this, but I know the last round of signs was largely passed out at events, and then obviously there was a stockpile at the police department that residents could pick up. I would propose, if the commission is willing, that we make them available at various village buildings. In addition to the police department, Public Works is amenable to having them for distribution. The VPRC is also on board. I need to clear with a couple other specific locations, but assuming the commission is agreeable to that, I think simply making them available at various customer service counters at village facilities would allow them to get a little bit more exposure and distribution without having to lug them to specific events and festivals, or at least not as many, perhaps.
Sounds like a great plan.
I agree,
Okay.
especially the rec center.
Yes, but are we going, I'd like to have a certain spot where maybe the majority of them are kept so that, what I'm looking at is, if we have an event that maybe Bob or somebody else on our committee would be interested in, taking them to this event, they can easily get a hold of them. So, I don't know if we just kind of, I don't know what happened with the police department. I know our, village manager was going to check with the police department to see if they wanted to hold the bulk of them or if we could pass them out.
And I think they were willing. Public Works could also stockpile them as well, so.
Okay. Yes, Bob?
I think it's a great idea to have them at different places, and kudos to Kevin for doing that legwork. I think the rec center would be a wonderful place because it has the most, it's open the longest, you know, and so
Maybe-
maybe even the library might be willing to take a few.
I like the idea of the rec center. There's a lot of room over there. So could we maybe focus on that part too, Kevin? You could check with them. And see.
Rec Center is already a yes.
But can we like store the majority of them there and then pass them out?
I see what you're saying. Let me reach out on that and find out.
So that, I'm thinking in reference to if Bob is going to an event that he might like to take some along with, he decided on Thursday and can't get over there until maybe Saturday or something like that, the rec center is open to
Gotcha.
a lot more.
Sure, sure.
At the same time, we have a commissioner from Parks and Rec here. Do you think it'd be possible to not just store them there, but have a display of some sort where people could say, hey, can I get a sign? They see them?
We have
Can
the room where they hold, towards the south end of the building, that's all windows. We
Okay.
have them by the desk. I mean, I'm not
Yeah, some-
speaking on behalf of GO or anyone, but there's plenty of storage space in that building,
Fantastic.
in my opinion. That's just my opinion. I'm not erasing this or making any executive decisions. But I
Right.
think that's the best because it is open the latest. You know, if you're at a concert and you're blowing through signs and it's 7:30,
Right.
you know the rec center is open, you can walk across the Western Trail and go pick up 10 more.
Well, it also doesn't require a special trip sometimes because a lot of people go to the rec center naturally, so they can
Well,
take one on
and the
their
rec
way.
center has kids.
Yeah.
Okay,
There's a
so,
lot of activities for the kids there, so that would be a target audience too.
Right.
so
That's my opinion.
that's what our plan is. We'll find out what happens in reference to it and see how accommodating they will be with the park commission.
Okay.
And then Kevin will give us an idea, and we're focusing on storing the majority of them there available for us. That's our goal. also too.
Yeah, I think they'll,
Because
I think
remember
they'll
when we
distribute
did
the most.
decide to get these signs and stuff, that we were deciding to go to these different events and hand them out. And the one that's coming off the top of my head right now is Summerfest. And I don't know if they still have, are they still planning Summerfest this year? Okay, so, you know, that'd be a great place to end up.
Right.
So we got to get together on that and take care of that.
May I make an additional suggestion?
Yes.
As far as possibly people interested in the signs, would we be able to display those on like a Facebook page or something, and anybody interested, let's provide an email address that they could say, hey, I'm interested in address, you know, at one of those signs at my address, give the address. I would be willing to take a handful of these signs, and I will directly deliver them to the people's homes. If they provide us with the information, the email, I can respond back to them, and I will keep a ledger of exactly each sign and who, what, when, where, and how it went to, so we can keep track of them also. I mean, if somebody, you know, hey, they're not able to get out and about, but they saw it on Facebook, hey, I'm interested in a sign, somebody from one of, you know, from the village or department, drop them off at their home, would that be a consideration? I would be willing to do that.
I am not interested really in having somebody from the actual village, whatever department it may be in reference to it. If it's somebody that's contacted and would like it and stuff that
I would do that.
you would
Drop
have
them
to
off.
do that, but I'm not looking at any other village employees to get
Right,
involved
I
with that.
understand. I'm doing that as a volunteer thing, to drop them off, and like I say, I'd keep a ledger of each and every sign and who it went to, what date and time.
Well, let's see if we can talk to, who's in
Riley?
charge of our,
Riley?
Right, okay? See if we can work something out on that, and then we'll find out.
All right.
But we do have the signs available, they're here. I know, Bob, you were looking for them the other day, which totally surprised me because 4 weeks ago, there was about, I think it was a count of 22 signs, according to the manager over at the, so I don't know what happened, so. They're exactly the same ones that are out there right now. So. And so, my question is, do we still want to leave this as an agenda item? Or bring it up and leave it here just for discussions as the summer is coming through with events? Or just address it as a comment or at the end of our meeting here and talk about where we could hand these things out? Questions out to everybody? Yes, Bob?
I think since we have the signs, we can take it off the agenda. I mean, it'd be easy for us to just give someone give an update as to how many have been picked up, et cetera, how many are left.
Okay, do we have a motion to remove this off our agenda item?
I'll make a motion to take it off the agenda.
Wagner?
Have a second? Tricia?
Little?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay. Moving on to item 908, speeding, traffic safety issues on Madison between Villa and Riverside. And I'm trying to recall, I thought we dropped that off the list, but maybe I'm wrong.
I don't believe so, but if I did leave it on an air, then I apologize.
I don't think we were having any special studies or anything about it,
No.
did we?
I don't recall if the commission had asked that we do an always stop control warrant study. I don't think it would be appropriate for this, but that said, we did include in the commission's packet another traffic crash report summary for this corridor. That can be found on, I believe it's page 58. Sorry, 60, page 60.
I think, just about, you got a comment?
Yeah, just a quick review, which you may have noticed, that not just it's not just that corridor of Madison, it's other, including, well, Villa as well, so.
Yes.
There is one rollover, which is, I don't know how fast they're going. And a couple, and that one in a parked car.
Most of these I'm seeing involve the intersection. Whereas our agenda item's talking about speed issues.
Yeah, just a quick note on that. We don't want to remove or select which ones are going to be displayed, even if they're outside of the particular study area, just because we don't want to be, we don't want to withhold information. I think it's up to the
No, no,
commission to
no,
digest it, so.
I'm
If they
just
choose.
saying the indication to me is that we have a bigger concern about that intersection than about speeding.
Well, what I would like to do then, since we do have this quite a bit of information, a lot more, and I would like to leave it on as an agenda item and again, review all these reports before we make a decision of what we really want to do with that. I agree, it's talking about a lot about the intersection. I'd like to just study it a lot more.
Do we want to amend it to include the intersection specifically?
Well, the way I'm looking at it, the way I look at it is, since we are talking about Villa and Madison as being a start point per se, I would think to me, I would assume the intersection is part of that. Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, when the gentleman was here, he was talking about everybody speeding down Madison to Riverside from Villa, and he was talking about some kind of traffic control around Monterey, and he's talking about that everybody's blowing past the school bus and the bus stop signs, not paying any attention, and kind of accusing everyone of using Madison of like a drag strip kind of thing.
I totally recall that. That's why I was thinking, and then,
But he was looking for something farther down, like at Monterey, if I'm not mistaken. He wanted some type of traffic control or stop signs or something of that nature.
Right, and everything
Closer to Riverside.
right, and everything I'm seeing here involves people
It's at Villa,
on
which is
Villa,
a street.
yeah. That's what I'm saying, do we want
I
to
think we're kind of getting off the edge of the focus point of what the gentleman was looking for.
agree?
okay. Yes, Bob?
I did notice that between this meeting and our last meeting, there was the sign, the digital sign that tells you, that will tell you your speed,
Yes.
was up for at least one day. And did the Middle Park Police Department put that up? I don't think. Okay.
Did we get the results on that too?
I did not. I'd asked for them. I will follow up and try and get those.
Okay. I'd like to get that report and discuss it with that, if we could. And however, since the reports that we have here, a lot of them talk about that intersection in reference to it, and I would have to look exactly how far down the intersection these reports are involved. But I think it brings up a case possibly to take a look at that intersection,
That's what I'm thinking as well.
and therefore we could end up creating a new agenda item.
Do you need me to make that motion?
Does everybody agree with what we're talking about? No? Yes? Maybe in between?
So I guess I just find myself wondering if, I'm not an expert. I'm not a traffic engineer. I'm just a community member who's here because I care about our village and I want it to be a good place to live. But I wonder if there's a way to look at things more holistically instead of spot checking, like, oh, this intersection, I wonder if it warrants a different kind of traffic control. This intersection, I wonder if it warrants a sign that tells you what speed you're going. This intersection, I wonder if there's a more holistic way of looking at how we design and build going forward into the future so that our streets are safer and more livable, rather than just spot checking each individual place as a community member comes with a specific complaint. You're going to tell me I need to have a specific suggestion about what that needs to look like. And I'm not sure. But
That's a very general.
That's how I feel whenever we do this discussion about, like, is it warranted to have a four-way stop at Elm and Division? Is it warranted to have a four-way stop at Elm and Princeton? And we're going to spend, 6 months looking at, should we have a four-way stop there? But then, as Jack rightly points out, like, if we should have a four-way stop there, should we have a four-way stop at every other intersection along that corridor? Or is there a different way that we need to be thinking about, like, some streets are through streets, and the streets that are not through streets, we need to do something differently in the design so that cars are not using them as through streets and driving at a high rate of speed.
And I think that would have to be falling back onto our engineering department that has to be looking at it in reference to the whole picture and not just, as you put it, individual areas.
Right, spot checking.
So,
And some of those kind of,
I mean,
One of the things, if you read the narratives on 90% of these, it's people not paying attention and not doing what they're supposed to do.
bingo.
The village can't drive the cars for every single person that drives through the town. People need to wake up, pay attention, be more courteous. The more we build, the less involved people are in paying attention. Well, we build it farther, they pay attention less. You build it even farther, they pay attention less. People need to wake up and follow the rules of the road and pay attention. That's the real bottom line here. Read the narratives on 90% of these things. It's just somebody not paying attention. They need to watch. Pedestrians need to watch. Pedestrians, they feel that they've got the right of way all the time. No, they do not. Google search it. When do pedestrians have the right of way? But everybody's training their kids. You always have the right of way. So they're just stepping out in front of moving cars and stuff. Pedestrians need to watch out for also. Drivers need to pay attention. Okay, I'm done whining. I feel better.
I mean, he's not wrong in reference to what he's saying. A lot of the situations that we have in our town basically is common sense with the motoring public, and that's not just here, that's everywhere. So what I'm looking at right now is we look at things that are brought to our attention from residents of the village and kind of look at it and focus in on that and see if we can do anything. A lot of it has to do with the police department and patrolling, and obviously they can't be everywhere to do that. And if you notice where they are, people pay attention and obey the laws. If they're not there, and I see it every day when I drop my daughter off at Jackson, okay, when the police car is there, everybody goes along with whatever it's supposed to be. It's not there, they do whatever they want to do. So it's an ongoing situation, not here, but everywhere, because I see it as I work on all the roads. So,
Ardmore School North. I live right there on Ridge and Princeton, right on the corner. Nobody ever stops at that stop sign. They just, parents dropping off late, they're just bailing through. Don't even stop, don't even stop. The minute the cop is sitting there, everybody stops.
of course.
Yeah, so it's, I mean, it's.
You can't stick a squad car on every
stop
part that drives through our
sign
town.
Every street, you know.
Yes.
People need to.
Unfortunately, I get hammered all the time by people from my neighborhood, people who know I'm on the board. They're all using my street as a drag strip. Nobody's stopping at the stop signs. They're all racing down my street. This goes on every single street in Villa Park. It's not just certain streets. It's on every single one of them. And unfortunately, this is the personality of the people driving the cars. We need to do something to get people to wake up, follow the rules of the road. This is their responsibility to drive the car correctly, not the village's
What about
responsibility to
maybe
drive the car for them.
offering something at the rec center? Like, I mean, I get this is traffic and safety meeting here. People obviously are not coming, maybe watching. But what about having like, I don't know, something at the rec center, kind of like I don't want to call it class, but something of awareness where you
Defensive
come,
driving.
you can explain to the kids, you know, like, hey, you know, and to people, like, I get you're a pedestrian, yes, you normally have the right of the way, but that doesn't mean let's just be careless and walk in front of a car, you know, and just kind of make a little bit of an awareness, even though you should already logically be aware.
Well, I think part of the point here is that everybody who gets a driver's license knows what a stop sign means. And if they choose to blow it routinely, no class is gonna change that.
I get it.
So they already had the class, it was called driver's ed. They tested, they passed. So they know, they just choose not to obey.
I'm going to go back in the past right now, and the situation that we have at Ardmore School, I want to say about 10 years, 12 years ago, they actually came to our meeting and addressed, excuse me, addressed the concerns of the traffic patterns there. And what we suggested too, and they agreed with it, is they started to educate their students to educate their parents. And they had different types of like contests each year. I think they did it for maybe 2 years in a row of obeying the traffic patterns and the rules that Ardmore had sent out to the parents. And it seemed to be pretty successful in reference to it. And as soon as that principal left, exactly. So, you know, might be a great idea to see if we could talk to the school district to see if they can do that. I believe North at one time did something similar back that many years ago when they changed the patterns of the traffic out there, and to try to alleviate that problem. And when somebody else is helping to enforce it, and when your kids are basically telling your parents that, hey, that's not what you're supposed to be doing, they think a little bit more. So, but let's, we just got sidelined here. Let's go back to the situation on the, if we should leave one, the item number 908, speeding and traffic issues or safety over at, on Madison between Villa and Riverside. Do we want to leave that on and see what we get from the reports from whatever the police department was able to pick up?
It wouldn't hurt us to table it, just to re-review it next month.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Tomaso and Cuthbertson.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? Okay. Going back to what I brought up, do we just want to look over the reports that we just have for that intersection and stuff and maybe bring it back up as a discussion next time?
Well,
See-
we're already bringing it back up next time as it is, so maybe we have time now to read over these reports And if we want to split it into a separate item, we can do that at the next meeting.
That's basically
Yeah.
another way I was looking at it, better said. Okay, so we will then move on. Item, excuse me, item 909, reverse parking on Wildwood, from south to north, Illinois to Euclid. I gotta get my bearings here.
Chairperson Pincos?
Yes.
Just a quick note for the commission, page 78 of the packet includes a map of the current parking restrictions in that area.
Page 78.
Yes.
Okay, so let's go back. Parking on Wildwood from south to north.
Mr. Chairman.
Illinois. Here we go. Yes?
Kevin, did we ever find out why this was changed?
No, unfortunately not. I think I had mentioned previously that there was a presentation that was referenced in the minutes for the board meeting where this did receive discussion, but unfortunately we were never able to track that down.
Okay. As I recall, this was done as part of a number of streets. Everything that's red on the map we have was all changed at one time.
I would clarify that not everything that's right on the map was part of this, but certainly some of it was, yes. And for the,
And the red is showing where we have the parking on what side of the streets.
No, that's the no parking.
That's
I mean,
no parking.
I'm sorry, you
Yes.
are correct, no parking.
Nice catch.
just a quick note, with the ordinance that was passed, provided in the packet, it would list, well, does list every single street, limits, parking restrictions, what have you, that was affected by that ordinance.
Yeah, I vaguely recall when they did this, I don't think they came to traffic and safety with it. I think they went right to the village board. And there were a number of streets in the downtown area that were changed as part of a new downtown parking plan. And Wildwood just got caught up in it. Does anybody have a reason it shouldn't be on the north side that I haven't thought of? Shouldn't be allowed on the north side, I should say.
When we were looking at the map previously, the fire hydrants are along the north side.
Actually, I think they're all on the side streets.
And I want to believe that is correct, except when you get to the intersections. I think the intersections show up, but they're, I believe, on Euclid, Summit, Charles,
Yeah,
Illinois.
yeah, I think the hydrants are actually on the streets though, not on Wildwood specifically.
Chairperson Pickles, I think I may have been responsible for that confusion when I had noted that the water main is on that north side. But yes, Commissioner Di Tomaso is correct. They're either on the side street or, in some cases, at the sidewalk. And given that parking is already prohibited by state statute within so many feet of a crosswalk, the fact that those fire hydrants are there doesn't change the parking restrictions at all.
Correct.
So,
So if it's okay, I'd like to make my quick case. We don't have any sidewalk on the south side of that street. People exiting their vehicles have to exit into vegetation, into grass, snow, mush, everything else. In regard, if we put them, allow them to park on the north side again, then they've got openings to sidewalks, a little safer, I think. Overall, we don't have to worry so much about if the vegetation on the Great Western side has been trimmed enough or anything like that. I can't think of a reason not to put it back.
Yes, Bob.
So
I was in deep
You know,
thought.
we've only had one resident complain about this. There has not been a hue and cry from that neighborhood saying, why is it on the other side of the street? I mean, there are no residences along, on that south side of Wildwood. Is it worth it for staff, to have staff change it to the other side and to change the ordinance? I mean, what I'd like to know is how many people are actually parking there? And has there been any comment from the staff at the community rec building? I mean, is there overflow parking going on Wildwood when the lots are full at the community rec building?
Great questions.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many people are actually gonna be parking there on Wildwood. They're gonna be parking on the side streets. They're gonna be parking on Illinois, on, Charles, on Summit, on Euclid. I mean, we had one person who came and said that she didn't like the situation. We haven't heard from a lot of other residents about it.
And just looking at the picture, I want to say there's only 3 houses that are involved with possibly, nope, I'm not going to go. I'm going to say the front of the houses all look like they're are on the north-south streets,
Yeah.
because I'm looking at all the sidewalks.
Yeah, all of them are. But there again, there's no sidewalk on the south side for them to get out to. And I can't understand why it was moved there in the first place.
I would like to add, like we do in the school zones, we would like to promote safe exiting of a vehicle for kids or anybody that may be going to the rec center to get out on the sidewalk side of the vehicle, not get out on the street side. To me, it would make more sense to have them exit on a side that has a sidewalk. Granted, the driver's gonna have to get out in the traffic, but at least your children that are getting out of the back seat or the passenger or front seat, at least they could exit out onto a sidewalk. It's just something to keep in mind, because that's what we promote around the school zones.
Yes, I agree with what you're saying, but I do believe the rec center has a pull-off to drop off the kids in front of the building. Okay, so
They do,
ideally,
but that's not affected by what we're talking about. We're talking about from Euclid west.
I understand, but the ordinance is covering, I believe, from Villa all the way over, well, covers, I guess, all of this area that we're talking about. And I do not know what's going to happen with the development that's over there.
Right, but this is a block away from the development over there.
I understand that. I'm trying to figure out, to me, my personal opinion was I had no problems with it being parking on the south side of the street.
Well,
Okay.
we've had a resident make a request. And granted, it is only one resident, but we did have a resident make a request. I can give you reasons that arguably you would want it to be on the north side. I'm asking if anybody has a legitimate reason as to why it should be on the south.
Sure, I can make arguments for why it should be on the
Okay.
south side. It should be, parking should be on the south side because there's no cross streets or driveways, or sidewalks blocking it on that side. So you can fit at least a half a dozen more cars on the south side than you can fit on the north side of the street. It's all kind of hypothetical when there's not a
That's
lot
true.
of people who are parking over there. It all also feels a bit like when we were discussing for the period of time we were discussing, should we put no parking signs on Belden, there was a really, really strong effort made to engage all of the residents who would be affected by parking restrictions on Belden. And it seems very strange to me that we're not doing the same process at all for this. We're just going like, well, one person said she wants to change it. Why don't we do the thing? Because, yeah, again, one person saying, I don't like the way that the parking is over here doesn't necessarily mean that it's a problem for the majority of residents.
Yes, Bob? Thank you, Trish.
I'm trying to think back about when this occurred. I think that the activity at Moore Brewing may have had something to do with it. Because at one point, they were releasing a lot of different types of beers that they were, that their brewmaster was.
Yes.
And they would have.
Every
folks
quarter.
They were
Right.
having folks lined up on, on the trail. I mean, there was a, I don't know if they don't do that anymore but I know that when they released a beer,
Oh,
they had a big clientele and they were lined up to get it.
yes. You're,
They may have had something to do with it, I think.
Okay.
yes. Yeah.
I like Trish's idea where we need consensus of more of the residents from that area rather than just taking one and trying to get more of a better flavor from more of the people that live there on exactly what they see, what they would consider. Because I have a feeling there's a lot of other opinions there that we're not seeing. Is there any way of advertising to see if we can get them to attend one of our meetings, get a handful more residents, and get some better ideas? Like I say, just taking one person's word for it, I think Trish is right. We need to, get some more ideas from people that live there. The same thing happened at Belden. There's a lot more people involved in it.
I'm not objective to it, but my observation is when I went down that street several times, and of course I know it's not during normal, we'll say, working hours per se, Saturday, Sunday, maybe in the evening. I don't believe I ever saw a car parked on Wildwood. And I want to say, before they built the rec center, and I did see several cars parked on it because they were using the facility at the park, because you had a basketball court there, you had a little playground there, and I think I know you had 2 baseball fields there. And that's the only time I've ever seen that parked and down, and I'm just looking at the portion between basically where it does the L shape to Euclid, and around on Euclid they used to park. But I didn't see it really ever go down further to the west of that area.
I do know the one person that was complaining about it. I know one of her biggest things that really kind of called the attention was she's parking a commercial vehicle in a residential area where she's driving a school bus. And
Right.
she stops at home and the foliage is growing out to the street. She can't get out of her bus. And that was how it kind of started.
And that's true, that is how it started. That was her main concern about it. However, I will say that Park and Rec went in there and cleared it out pretty good. I went past her several times. Matter of fact, I just went past her about a month ago to see how it looks. Sure, it's starting to grow back, but it's still not on top of the cars and stuff. But it definitely was cleared back at least 5 feet, maybe 6 feet. I didn't take a measuring tape out there, but it was cleared back enough that you could open up your doors comfortably, get out of the car, and utilize it. Yes?
Shouldn't it really though be about not how many of the residents complain about it, more so being what is the better safety for the village overall? And I understand that it's cleared now, but what happens when winter comes and they're plowing the streets and the snow starts to pile up, when plow trucks are going down and it's piling up on the side, and now you know, obviously they can't push the snow further over, they're just coming down, you know what I mean?
That happens on every street, on every side.
Right, right, but at least on the side where there's the sidewalk, people exiting and go. I just feel like it's always better to exit a vehicle on the sidewalk side than no sidewalk at all, you know what I mean? I'm just making us,
Understand? But like I said, in reference to the snow and stuff, snow's piled up on, I mean, even in front of my house. I have to stay out in the street, let whoever's on the right-hand side of the car get out, then I go and park it along the curb line.
when there's, normally when there's a sidewalk, I'm gonna assume there's curves there as well.
There's curbs on both sides on this thing.
Right, so when they're plowing and there's normally a curb, they're plowing up against like the curb and it's kicking it further, you know what I mean? My husband plows, so like when you're plowing on the other side, I'm gonna assume there's no curb since there's grass.
There is.
There are curbs,
Okay,
but there's no sidewalk.
but there's no sidewalk, okay.
So-
I wasn't realizing there was a curb there.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was just like grass.
And my thought is simply that it's better to have the parking on the side with sidewalks. It's better to have the parking on the side so that people don't have to cross the street
Well, yeah, I think that was.
to get to everywhere they're gonna go to. And whether it's one resident or 50, I'm gonna pay attention when a resident comes to me with an issue. And I've looked at it, and I just can't understand why we want it on the south side. I don't understand why it got there in the first place.
I think that's what everybody's trying to figure out.
Right, no, I'm just.
So I understand that part. Right now, like I said, to me, I have no problems with them parking on the south side because I really don't see any cars on the south. I'm gonna say I don't see any cars really on Wildwood. I see them all on the north-south streets in front of their houses to go into the front of their houses. Basically, I think there's, the driveways are all going out on Wildwood, but the front of their houses, the front walks to their houses and everything else, and that's where I've seen everybody parked, so.
That's where her biggest complaint was though. Her biggest complaint was having to cross the street. Why can't we park like everybody else on the side of the street that you live on? You know what I mean? She had repeatedly said that. I remember because I was at that meeting.
Yeah, no, and she did, and she, yeah,
So
she,
she felt, I think she just feels like, why can't I just park like on the side that I live on? Why do I have to cross the street to go to my house and then cross the street to go back to my vehicle? I think that's kind of what she was more so concerned about.
okay, and the only other thing that I was gonna bring up, is a safety issue, is if the fire department's coming in for whatever emergency it is, it would be better for them to have a clear side on the north side than on the south side.
Yeah. I guess if there's fire hydrants there.
No, it doesn't matter with fire hydrants, but if they're coming to the house or something like that, or if they're servicing the garages or whatever, it'll be easier for their trucks to stay on the side of the residents versus
Well,
being.
and every other block in town, they're on one side and they have to cross the street as
I'm not
well.
disagreeing with you, but
Yeah.
the situation that we have here is you don't have any homes or residencies on the south side, so they will not be worried about to get to them. I mean, when they bring the fire trucks and everything else in for emergency scenario, they would rather be closer to whatever the incident is, instead of parking and working around the cars. And that's the other point that I have about it. Otherwise, I have no other comments about it.
I would just say, I get there's only a handful of houses there, but I guess like put yourself in the person's shoes. Like if you lived in one of those houses, to me, I would not want to constantly have to cross the street, I'm just giving my opinion, you know what I mean? I can park on the side where I live, and I have a nice driveway, so, but I can see where it would be annoying if I lived in one of those houses and have to constantly cross the street and park my car, cross the street, go inside, cross my street. I mean, what?
But the reason is she's not doing as Jack said, the reason why is she parks the commercial school bus there, I guess, in between the hours that she's operating it, in reference to it.
Well, that would be the case if it was a passenger car as well. You still have to park on the south side and
I
cross the street.
understand that, but what I was trying to say, every time I've gone past there, I have not seen anybody really parked there at all.
Well, then my argument would be, what difference does this make? Why not just switch it and be done with it?
And I'm going with what I said before, and I'm going to leave it
Yeah, I
up
get
to the
what-
committee. I'm going to go with, if I was looking for safety purposes for the emergency vehicles, they would rather have that north side open and not parked up.
Okay.
And you have, yes, Bob?
Yeah, this item was actually taken off our list. That's my understanding. This item came back.
I don't remember how it came back.
She brought it back up when we started doing the things down by the S-curve by the rec center. She attended the meetings and she kind of brought it back up.
Just a point of order there. I don't believe it was ever added to the agenda, is my recollection. I think it was added, I don't recall exactly which meeting, but more recently, in response to a commissioner bringing it back up. So I don't believe it was ever actually removed from the agenda because it was never added to the agenda in the first place.
Yes, Bob?
What I would like to do is, and I would be happy to do this, just to walk that Wildwood, just to ring doorbells and say, hey, are you having an issue with the parking on Wildwood, being on the south side of the street? I mean, I'm happy to leave it the way it is, but if there's, if I would hear more evidence, then, so be it, let's change it, But there is a certain amount of investment of time of staff to change the plan. There was some rationale at some point why we moved it,
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, so,
Well, do we want to try and go out, go door to door on the 5 houses, 6 houses that are involved, 2, 4, 6 houses?
yeah. The other comment I would make is, you would think that the resident who was in favor of changing it would try and enlist the help of her neighbors who might be interested as well. But we didn't see that, so.
We did not see that.
Well, she was at Coffee at the Board last Saturday, and she did bring the issue up there as well. So she is still active about this. She just hasn't come to our meeting tonight.
Okay. I'm kind of in favor of leaving this on our agenda, however it got there then. And then we, Bob, or if any other commissioners would like to survey a couple of the houses there that are living on Wildwood, not going up the side streets, and see what the reactions are.
I'm happy to do that.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, Bob? And then I'm also gonna ask our emergency units if they have a preference. Okay? So we'll table this until our next meeting.
Is there a motion for that?
Is there a motion for that now?
I'll make a motion to set aside item 910, parking on Wildwood east of Euclid.
909, I believe, right? Is what we're,
Well,
Oh, sorry, item 909.
okay. First, I'm sorry, motion by Wagner,
second? Anybody?
Second?
Di Tomaso.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? Okay, so we're gonna leave that. Okay, traffic on item number 910, traffic and parking on Wildwood east of Euclid to Villa. And that one, I would say, I would like to leave that on the agenda. In reference again to, I have,
We need to wait and see, because there's gonna be a lot of changes there, isn't there, with the construction?
well, if the development goes, I don't, I'd like to see what the development is doing. And basically, I have no problems with no parking on the north side of that street. I believe that's correct, right? Or is that the south side?
Parking is currently prohibited on the south side
On the
and
south side,
permitted
too.
on the north side.
Okay, that's fine. And that solves the problem if they park, they get out, and they go to the rec center, or whatever businesses are there. So,
So, Chairperson Pincos?
yes.
Just wanted to add a few details. I recognize the commission elected to add new item 912 pertaining specifically to the union, but just to give a couple updates. They are hopeful, the developer that is, to submit for permit sometime this month. So they do hope to still break ground as early as June, although I think more likely a few months after that is what's going to end up happening. We also do have a permit application submittal from ComEd to relocate some very expensive relocation work for poles that are on the property. So that would not be moving forward unless they were committed at this point. One additional detail, I believe I've mentioned to the commission previously that we are awaiting submittal of a traffic impact study from the developer. The most recent version we have is from March of last year. They've represented to us that they expect to have an updated version addressing our comments in the near future here.
Okay.
And once we have that and have a version that is acceptable, or at least, addresses staff's major comments, that we would pass that along for the commission's review and discussion.
Okay. So with that being said, that would, basically, we would table also item 910, the parking along Wildwood, Euclid to Villa, and see what that pattern, or if there's a different traffic study, or what they're actually building there and how they're gonna handle the traffic. And that would coincide with then us having the new business for item 912. The traffic study for union development. Will that work into that way?
I would say that's up to the commission.
Does everybody agree on that? So do I have a motion to officially put that as 912 traffic safety for, traffic study for the union development?
I'd like to make that motion.
Just a quick point of order, for my, making sure we get this into the minutes correctly. This motion is for what now?
For the item that you were writing down there, 912 traffic study for the union development, to put that on as an agenda item?
My understanding was that was already added in the amendment to the agenda portion of tonight's meeting. Am I mistaken on that?
Okay, so we don't have to so that was officially approved at the beginning?
That was my understanding, maybe.
Okay.
Did I miss?
No, okay. I didn't know if we had,
Yeah, I that was my understanding, so.
yeah, we were asking about adding it to the new business as an amendment. So we don't have to do any more with it.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, other new business is item 911. Traffic crashes on South Euclid, north of Roosevelt Road.
Sorry, just a point of order, we didn't have any formal action on tabling or anything on 909. I'm sorry, 910.
I thought we did, okay, well, okay.
That was, I think my confusion was, I don't believe we,
Okay. Let's go back to item 910, traffic and parking on Wildwood east of Euclid to Villa Avenue. We're gonna table that for next meeting.
I'll
And-
make that motion to table or to set aside.
Wagner,
And we had a second?
I'll second.
Trish?
Little,
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, any nays? Okay. Are we caught up now?
yes, thank you for,
No problem. Okay, then we go to new business. Item 911, traffic crashes on South Euclid, north of Roosevelt Road. That was brought to, I believe, an email sent to the village about that? Is that how that developed?
yes, so, a village resident on South Euclid Avenue submitted an email to, village manager Matt Harline, copied the entire board on March 8th. That is in the commission's packet on page 89.
Okay,
Kevin?
and in summary, yes, go ahead.
I remember this issue coming before the Traffic and Safety Commission in the past. Mr. Devens appeared before the commission, if I'm not mistaken, and this is where we put up the
Speed bumps,
speed bumps.
temporary
And
portable
we
ones.
had spinners to alert people that there were speed bumps in addition to signs, and that seemed to take care of the problem. Have we not been, and I remember we were taking the speed bumps out because it was an impediment for plows. Have we eliminated the speed bumps altogether?
I'll let you answer that.
The speed bumps are not out there at present. They haven't been actually for some time. They were, if commissioners will recall, they are the molded rubber ones. And unfortunately, they were damaged or knocked out over time, and Public Works staff did not end up putting them back. I'm not sure if there was a conscious decision not to put them back, but there are none at the moment.
So can we put them back?
I guess I'm not clear on whether or not they were effective. One of the things I also wanted to bring up, because I just want to mention that these crashes, many of them at least, occurred while there were speed bumps in place. One of the other issues that this presented was, if you'll look at the exhibit on page 90, the village only has jurisdiction over 1, 2, 3, 4, roughly 10 homes. North of that is York Township Highway Department jurisdiction. South of that is the city of Oak Brook Terrace. My recollection, some commissioners might remember better than I do, but I believe York Township Highway Department pushed back on the presence of those speed bumps because they also plow this corridor. Not that that should be a reason not to have them, but I believe I believe that happened. I just wanted to mention it. So we've got crashes here from as far back as 19. Number in 23. I believe the speed bumps were still up at that time. The most recent one in 2025, they were gone. I do know that. But I believe at least 3 of these crashes, they were present.
And I believe York Township did not like the idea of the speed bumps, especially being on any of their portion of the roadway. Am I correct?
That's correct. So basically, we would be putting speed bumps only in the Villa Park portion, is what it would come down to. In front of basically, I think it looks like it's about 7 homes on the west and roughly 4 or 5 Villa Park homes on the east.
Say something? Well, I also noticed that, well, this is, once again, somebody not paying attention, running into a parked car on this one. As I recall, when that came up before us before, many years ago, they was talking about everybody's using it for a cut-through. They're all speeding down our street. This is why he was asking for the speed bumps or some type of traffic calming. We did, if I'm not mistaken, we did police presence. They started handing out tickets, and if I'm not mistaken, it was like 11 out of 14 tickets that were issued were all people who lived there. Do we have any information from way back when that gentleman was, because I remember it was a lot of the residents that were getting the tickets.
I can't answer to that, but I do remember the situation because I do have a friend that lives on that street. Okay.
I do understand his concern, because when people go to like the Thornton gas station, and at the time they couldn't get out and make a left turn to go back eastbound, they come in out of Cook County because you can get cheaper, gas cheaper, a little less taxes, buy your cigarettes, stuff like that. And they were staying but they were having to go down and go around the block to come out on Summit. And so I do understand that they were getting increased traffic. Bob's got some.
Yes, Bob?
Yeah, and there was also concern about how the traffic pattern would change if the Thornton's project, which required the cooperation with the city of Oak Brook Terrace, how that would change. And they were concerned about, with that expanded location. But it's my understanding that the city of Oak Brook Terrace dragged their feet. They were not on board with the revenue sharing portion of that project, and so you got an empty lot to the east where they were intending to expand, and there were some changes made in preparation for that expansion, but we didn't get the cooperation we hoped for from the city of Oak Brook Terrace.
And you're correct. That's what I was just going to bring up. And that is the initial reason why they came to our meeting, because they were afraid if this development happened, that there would be more increased traffic down there. And we never did see any type of plan or anything else in reference to what Oak Brook Terrace was planning to do,
Well, what Thornton's was
or
planning to do.
or coming back to us.
Thornton's actually had a meeting at the library
Okay.
where residents were, it may have been more than one.
Okay. But, like you said, they haven't, it's been canceled. Nothing's happening with that property. Matter of fact, I think they took the fences finally down and they actually landscaped it over there.
No,
Nope, they still got the fences up?
fences are still up.
Okay, but I did notice they did landscape it.
I don't know about that.
Well, they put seed and stuff like that in there, so. I'm sure that's erosion purposes. But, also that was brought up in reference to this was the resident was also really would like to have a cul-de-sac at the end of that, we'll say the property line down there, in reference to maybe, and you can help me with this, Kevin, I believe it was for, right somewhere near, just north, or just south of his home, he would like to, or homes that were there, put a cul-de-sac in?
Yeah, again, to call Commissioner's attention to the email itself, there is mention that he would like a cul-de-sac or barriers at the end of his block.
Okay,
Say something?
yes.
He asked for that once before. And it was turned down back many years ago.
This is dated March.
This year, yes.
So, I guess, do we know, like, what was the outcome of the meeting? Was there a meeting? Did they call him back? Well, the letter states that he wanted a call back at a meeting with the village manager.
My understanding is that the village manager did follow up with him, yes. Actually, not understanding, he did. So,
Do we know how the discussion ended, or what was suggested, or what the conversation consisted of between the resident and the manager?
my understanding is that that led to this being on the agenda tonight. Traffic and Safety was requested to review the residents' email concerns and the associated traffic crashes.
So, however, you still have 3 agencies, or 2 agencies other than us, that are involved with that street. And I'm just gonna say, unfortunately, he had an accident in front of his house there. And like we said, there were several other ones, even while the speed bumps were in there. My personal opinion is, I don't think, well, let's put it this way. I talked to one resident there, and he was like, I'm not that excited about having a cul-de-sac or stopping me from going southbound to Roosevelt Road.
Right.
And,
Speed bumps are unsafe for some plow guys. I mean, you hit that speed bump with a plow down, that could.
Plus-
Not only that, if you live there, do you want to listen to thump, 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 thump 24 hours a day?
Yeah.
You want to open a window in your house? Not to mention the things that it can possibly do to a car for wear and tear.
Yeah, and plows.
and that stretch that we would be putting, would you just put 1 speed bump and just let it be? Or would you try to put 2? But we're only talking about probably a 250-foot stretch of road there.
Yeah, I don't know the exact measurement, but you're right, it's somewhere in that ballpark.
Point of order. Best practice is to refer to vehicle crashes as crashes rather than accidents.
Incidents.
Incidents.
Yeah, I've noticed that most of these incidents are parked cars, people not paying attention.
Goes back to your other statement earlier today. So, for this evening.
I would personally rather have speed bumps than crashes. I understand that you can't take a plow over a speed bump at speed. I understand that it does make noise. Speeding motor vehicles also make noise. I understand that it causes wear and tear to cars if you take your car over it above the speed that's recommended to go over the speed bump, but they are effective at traffic calming. They do generally slow people down. And given that vehicles moving faster than the speed limit is the average, and moving significantly faster than the speed limit is quite common, things that slow vehicles down, I think, increase safety and livability.
Yes, Bob, I didn't see your hand.
It's my recollection that, that Mr. Devens even came back to say, and I could be wrong, that he said that the speed bumps were effective, and even when they didn't go back on, the spinners alerted people that this may be there, and people were slowing down. I'd love to hear from him, because that was my recollection. In fact, I made a point of driving up and down. Instead of going down Villa or Summit, I would go down Euclid just to drive down that street, and, you know, just to observe how people were handling those speed bumps. But it's my recollection that it caused some conditioning of people who drive down that street, and that they were slowing down.
So basically, and if I recall too, Kevin, you can help me with this, is our Public Works Department. The intent was to put them in, pull them out for the winter, back in.
Is that what was, I'll be honest, I wasn't
I think
here
that
for
was-
that portion of Traffic and Safety Commission's meetings,
I
so.
believe that's what they were planning to do.
Okay.
with that scenario, you have to think that you pull them at the beginning of November and you officially put them back beginning of May. So is that gonna effectively work in the situation? Is this, I mean, this is something, because that was the problem, I believe, in reference to, like you said, the township plows that street. And it plows it for us too, or for our section.
I don't know if they plow for us in that location or not. There are some areas in the village, I apologize, I don't know if that's one of them, but
Okay.
So let me get this right. So if we put speed bumps there, we need to put speed bumps at Washington and Harvard. We need to put speed bumps at Division and Elm, and we need to put them at our Division in Princeton and Elm and Princeton, all the places that we have the same issue. Because this issue goes on everywhere, not just certain houses. But are we setting a precedence on that? Well, we do it here, we have to do it everywhere.
Great point.
He's got something.
That's about,
Well, we already put the speed bumps down, and not everyone was asking for them. In other words, these speed bumps were put in a few years ago.
Quite a few years ago.
And it did, in my recollection, it was a solution. And we didn't have people asking en masse for speed bumps on the street, so.
And even if they were asking en masse for speed bumps on their street, I'd be in favor of giving people speed bumps if they want them. We know that motor vehicle speeding is a pervasive issue, and I hear you say the solution is personal responsibility, but we've been doing personal responsibility since the 1960s, and it hasn't resulted in motor vehicles going slower. So if we have options that allow us to slow motor vehicle drivers down on residential streets, I am all in favor of giving speed bumps to any street that wants them. I hear you, it's worse for the plows. We had very few snowstorms this winter that required plowing. We had even fewer that required significant plowing. I feel like if people want speed bumps, give the people speed bumps.
my point is, it's only gonna be there for, what, 5 months out of the year? You're gonna have to pull them for the type of speed bumps that we put in that we could afford? Yes.
So, in the city of Chicago, there are many neighborhoods that have permanent speed bumps. They're not speed bumps that you put in and take out. They're there permanently. How does the city of Chicago sanitation department deal with those speed bumps? They must just lift their plows.
No.
Ready?
No, those speed bumps are similar to the speed bump, I believe, that we tried to create over by the, I think, the Prairie Path on Villa.
Speed tables instead of bumps.
You can call them speed tables,
Yeah.
okay? That's what they have in the city. So they're basically a bump that is actually, I
Wider.
believe, 10 feet wide or length, and it is the full width of the street, except when you get to the, real close to the curb so they can have the drainage. And it's, as you put it, Trish, it's kind of, they call them tables too, so. And, they're not cheap, I will tell you that. They're probably
Go 14 to 16,000 range.
a little more than that, because
At that time.
Yeah.
Because the.
right now,
price
it would be
price
somewhere
they came
between
up
$20,000
at
to maybe
that time.
$25,000 just for them to come in and do one of those.
And those are made out of asphalt, right?
They are made out of asphalt
So we would have to replace it every year?
or concrete, no, they are permanently in there in reference to it. But like I said, they're about 10 feet in length, and the width is, I guess you call it the width, is 10 feet. I call it the width. But they're expensive to put in there. they can handle the plows, okay? And usually, at that time, they have to go out and they actually have to mark those for the, before the winter comes, so that the plows do know where they are. And they have to put something, that's usually about 2 to 4 feet tall that they put into, what do you want to say, parkway, just to recognize where the plows don't go crashing into them. They go a lot slower over them and everything else. So, yes, Joe?
So, reading the email and not having much else to go on except the email, he lists 3 incidents. The first 2 are drunk drivers, and the third one was a hit and run, which I'm guessing was probably a drunk driver also, considering he crashed into the cart and took off. Do we actually think speed bumps or speed tables or magic wizards or whatever else we're gonna put there are actually gonna stop these people?
I'm gonna say, no, it won't stop them, but if you do put in one of those bumps that are like they do in the city, okay, and other villages occasionally are putting them in, they don't put them, most of them put them in, I'll tell you where most of the local villages put them in and stuff, is if they have an industrial park, and they wanna slow their trucks down.
Right.
So that's basically where they put them.
But truck drivers are hopefully sober.
No, but we don't have a utopia here.
No, I understand that, but what I'm suggesting is if the problem is coming down to drunk drivers, are they gonna pay any attention to the speed bumps anyway? Or are we just gonna inconvenience every other driver on the road for that?
So one of the things that Vision Zero projects talk about is the fact that if you're waiting for crashes and then responding reactively to crashes, that you're allowing more harm and damage to happen in your community than if you respond proactively and put in solutions ahead of there being crashes. So rather than saying like, well, nobody's died so far, and waiting until, rather than waiting until something truly awful happens before we address an issue.
And I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that
I
whatsoever.
hear you say the problem is drunk drivers, nothing is going to stop a drunk driver.
Well, that's what I'm reading here.
I guess I'm hearing from the discussion that having speed bumps there was effective at slowing vehicles down on the street. And yeah, he's asking for a cul-de-sac or for a barricade, and we can't make that happen because we can't work with Oak Brook Terrace and with the county or the York Township. We can't work with them to make a cul-de-sac happen, but we can do something to reduce vehicle speeds, and I feel like doing the thing that we had in there before that was effective at reducing vehicle speeds is sensible. Even if it's not going to stop people from drunk driving, it's still a sensible decision to
No, I
make.
understand what you're saying. I'm just wondering if it's going to actually solve the issue. And I am being reactive because that's the way this is brought to me. Do we have any information? Scratch that, sorry.
Well, if we think about trying to put a speed bump in, which is the only, I think, alternative that we have, like said, we're not gonna put just barricade it off. And we are not putting a cul-de-sac, which is basically barricading it off. If we one of the other things, obviously, we would have to probably communicate with the York Township Highway Department and see what their comments are. And also, I would say we'd have to find out who does the plowing of that whole section in there, or if each individual agency is covering their location, which I'm gonna say there's one agency that's plowing it, okay? And then I forget how far deep York Township goes, but I'm not totally convinced that, I think it goes further than that intersection down there, the next north intersection.
If you're saying north on Euclid, that's correct. York Township's jurisdiction, York Township Highway Department specifically continues, once it picks up, almost up to Harrison Street.
So we only have a small portion of that area, again, if you look at it in length. So I would like to have Kevin possibly look into the situation and find out what York Township's thoughts would be about us doing that. Especially if they're plowing it, their thoughts. And obviously, they have the majority stake of that road that we're talking about, except for that small piece. And then I don't know what Oak Brook Terrace would say about it, but I don't. Yes, Joe?
What about, since this traffic seems to primarily, according to the email, be coming out of Thornton's, what about changing the curb cut out of Thornton's to only allow a right turn out?
Not our jurisdiction. That's a simple one.
Well, maybe we talk to Oak Brook Terrace about making that happen.
The first thing there, I can't say anything about that,
No, I'm just saying, maybe that's,
but I know the first thing they would sit there and say is, how you gonna pay us?
We're not making it only one way.
Can't do that either, because you got three agencies involved, or we got two other agencies involved. Coming out of Thornton's, you got Oak Brook Terrace. Just north of there, you have, the York Township. And I know York Township is not an excited person about having, speed
About what?
bumps anywhere in their district. And I know that as a fact. Now, however, you also have a new highway commissioner coming in within the next week or two. Maybe he has a different opinion, so. But,
I have a question. So it costs $20,000 to $25,000 to put in a new speed table. How much does it cost to install a speed table as part of a project that's like as part of a resurfacing project that's already being done?
it'll be about that.
It's still $20,000 to $25,000.
Yes, because basically they go in, they improve the streets, get it to its final elevation or surface or whatever you want to call it. Okay, then they come in, and how this works is you cut into the roadway, go down X amount of inches, which basically is anchoring that speed bump in that spot.
So, but if you were rebuilding the roadway already, you would still build the complete roadway and then cut a section out of the roadway.
You're not taking the whole roadway section out. You are going down and basically keying that bump into that section.
Okay.
So, and I don't remember exactly, that could be 3 to 4 inches deep,
Okay.
and then that's And that's
So
that's the
it's-
proper way to
Right.
get it in.
So it's always installed after the roadway is completed, so there's no cost savings to doing it when the roadway is already being, when the roadway is being constructed, because it's always a post-construction installation.
It's a separate operation
Okay.
of the roadway,
All right, thank you.
so. Any other comments?
Can we put a do not enter blockade there on the right side of the roadway? A barricade, so to speak, on the right side of the roadway, blocking access from the south?
Again, how good of a neighbor do you want to be? And how good, again, you have, just on the road also is York Township residents. They're not part of the Villa Park group here.
Well, it wouldn't necessarily stop traffic from traveling either direction.
You
It would
can
just
try
block
to do
off.
anything, but
Yeah.
I guess, trying to
I'm just
say,
searching
be a
for a
good
reason.
neighbor type situation, because one of these days you might want to go back, as we are asking
Yeah.
Addison right now, and they said no. So,
Next question, is this one person, or do we have a group of people on Euclid asking for this to be looked at?
To my knowledge, it's just the one individual, but it kind of going back to the earlier conversation about the parking on Wildwood, we certainly haven't reached out to solicit feedback or opinions, so.
yes.
It's my recollection that when Mr. Devens came before, he kind of marshaled his neighbors, and we had more than one person here. That's my recollection.
You are correct.
Yes, he did.
But again, they came basically for that development in reference to, that was the main issue. They're saying, hey, cars are speeding down our street anyways, and now you're gonna all of a sudden increase it tenfold because they're doing this gas station development. And to be honest with you, that was what, maybe 6 years ago?
5, 6 years ago.
Yeah. And since that development hasn't moved forward, they have not been back. Except for this. And
Not stating that they're speeding,
No.
Like in his letter,
no,
just to be clear, he's had accidents happen. So
incidents.
Point of order, crashes.
crashes,
Thank you.
crashes happen. So it doesn't necessarily mean the person was speeding. Obviously, just twice the person was drunk and not, able to drive. But, I don't know.
So we only have 3 incident reports.
No, that's not true. He referenced 3 incidents. However, we actually found 5 when we went back and looked. Now, one of them is quite a bit further north of him, but again, we put all 5 of those on the exhibit that's on page.
Oh, okay.
I apologize. Was it 90? I believe.
90, yep. And then the reports are following.
Well, we only have 3 reports in here.
We have.
Did we not provide only?
4.
4 reports.
I apologize. Do we miss one?
2, I thought I counted 5. I'll recount.
1,
3.
2.
No, it must be 5, because there's 5 on the map.
It still looks like 5 to me.
Yeah, there's 5 on the map, but 1 is very far north compared to where he is.
Yeah, but there's 5 in our packet.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just went to a narrative spot, which I stopped at.
In his email, he asked for a barricade or a cul-de-sac. I gotta wonder if the speed bumps worked, why wouldn't he be asking for them to be replaced?
Very good point.
He's not speeding according to his email.
He just wants to stop the traffic from going down his street.
Pretty much.
Okay, these are all parked. How about if we had some kind of a pork chop that would bring a curb out in order to try and get people to move over a little bit, because these are all somebody running into a parked car. I just trying to think, maybe we need to look at this from a different point of view, because they're all parked car incidents.
What about no parking on the street?
Just one quick thing to note in response to that. I don't remember which crash specifically it is, but driver drove into his parkway and took out his mailbox. So
And
it
another
wasn't
one-
just the vehicles on the street that were getting hit.
Yeah. And another one said that the car was in the
Mailbox
driveway.
Incident was your one going somewhere around the 15th, 2015.
For any commissioners that would like to go look at it, I believe Street View from, I can't recall the date, but Google Street View shows the aftermath of the mailbox crash.
Of the what?
The vehicle that crashed into the resident's mailbox in, I can give you a date here in just a minute, August of 2022 is the date of the Google Street View image showing post mailbox crash.
And that was the intoxicated.
Well, given that, let's see, so it's in this condition in August of 22, obviously it had to be between the last date, which is November of 2018. I would hope that the crash report for this one references the mailbox. So I would think that would have to be most likely the March 14th of 2021.
Well, even putting, anything we do to the street, we do need to contact the other agencies and talk to them if you were thinking about trying to do anything, even if you put that bump out, Jack.
I'm just trying to think outside the box, looking at this from a different angle, that's all.
And the only thing I don't like about putting a bump out for that, we would have to somehow glorify it to make sure that people realize, hey,
It's there.
it's there.
Yeah, we're gonna end up with reflective signs, posts,
Yeah.
little curbs,
Yes,
and
and,
people will still be running into it.
because right over our neighbors on St. Charles Road here in Lombard put a new bump out where it was a traffic lane. And at the moment, they keep putting barricades in front of it for the last 2 years. Because they don't know what, because cars are just like, wasn't there before and now it's there type situation.
So I'm looking at the 5 reports, and it appears 4 of them were hit and runs. And the 5th, I'm guessing, was a drunk because there was an arrest report.
I didn't see one with the
I don't see it
mailbox.
mentioned either, unfortunately, but it was part of the
Email.
one.
So anyways, I personally don't see anything different here than what we have with other locations in our village. But you could possibly, Kevin, if you could talk to,
We can try reaching out to both York Township and Oak Brook Terrace, just to at least get feedback, and then I can report back at the next meeting. So do want to just point out that I believe Mr. Devon's mention of the mailbox being part of the 2017 crash appears to not be correct. So I don't know which one it was part of, and agreed, it's not mentioned in any of the crash reports, but Google Street View does not support the idea that it was 2017 that the mailbox was hit. So, for whatever that's worth.
Okay. I think that comes, we have enough discussion on that? Okay, so, obviously, do we have a motion to table this until,
I'll make a motion that we table this or set this aside until Bill
What-
get
what-
more information.
Motion by Wagner?
second?
Oh, I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any nays? Okay, moving right on. Commissioners' comments. Joey, we were gonna start at your side, and we'll just move right on down.
Point of order?
Oh.
This would typically be the point in the agenda where commissioners would discuss prior to comments, any public
Oh.
comments that were brought up, if the
Thank you.
commission would so like.
Thank you. Totally getting a little late here. Okay, so we have the situation of traffic speeding on Harvard/Washington, the Pace bus running down Washington. The way I'm looking at this is, again, it's no different than any other situation that we have in town. I don't believe we could look into, see if there's any major accidents that have developed, but in reference to trying to do something about the Pace bus route, Bob would probably be a little more informed on that.
I can just tell you that it's extremely difficult to get Pace to change a route. One of our bike pedestrian transit subcommittee members, Joe Amore, former community development director Jan Viola, or what was her name? I can't remember.
Fiola.
Fiola, yeah, she even asked, because we thought it might be advantageous to have Pace go past the metro station, but they're very reluctant to do that. The situation, the bridge, was because the bridge was structurally questionable, and they didn't want certain weight vehicles going over the bridge. That's why it was relocated. That's why the route was temporarily relocated. So who knows what's going to happen with Pace, because there's a huge shortfall for public transit. And I don't know. We'll see what happens, but
And I also understand they're trying to group it all in with the city of Chicago too, with their transportation. There's something major going on that they're
yeah,
trying.
there's been, I'm going too far afield here, but there's been hearings or public input sessions here in DuPage County about Pace, et cetera, and, you know, what all these transit agencies, how this is all gonna pan out.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he said, over the past few years, but Pace did drop down considerably during COVID. You can see it in the amount of vehicles in the train station parking lots. Things are starting to come back up a little at a time. But, that may be when he said that, for the past few years, COVID had a big effect on that.
Pace had a major, rebound for a period of time. I don't know how that's going.
They lost all the pandemic money because it's finally run out, and that's where the big shortfall is coming. So, that's one of the big shortfalls that are coming. I know there's another one, I can't remember exactly how that works. But all your agencies are starting to worry about how that's gonna affect their routes. Do we want to investigate to see if we have any traffic incidents at this intersection, or?
Chairperson Pecos?
Yes.
I actually already started that process, so that was, I figured that made the most sense, just at least go ahead and take that effort, so we will get that put together.
Yeah, he had stated that there was 3 of them that he knows of.
Okay.
He can comment.
With that, then, should we, yes, Joe?
I move the table till next meeting.
Point of order. We don't actually have an item on this yet,
Oh,
so.
okay, I'll move to make an item.
Motion by D. Tomaso.
So basically, what we're saying is we want to make another new item for this, and it'd be 913. And looking at the traffic patterns and speeding incidents at Harvard and Washington. And do we want to put / Pace Bus, or how do we want to handle that?
I don't think there's much we can do with the Pace Bus.
I agree. So I'm
As
not
I
in
would-
favor of leaving it in there, but I'm asking opinions
Yeah.
down the line. Okay, so we're not gonna do that. So we're gonna leave the Pace Bus alone, just from our past experiences. And if he comes back in reference to it, I would just have to ask him to specifically, individually go to Pace and see what he can do.
Right.
Uh,
We need a second and a vote?
We do. Before we have that vote, I did just want to address one of the things he said. The construction in the area on Madison is currently resulting in a lot of increased motor vehicle traffic on Washington as a result, because that is the marked detour for the Madison closure. We're hopeful to have Madison wrapped up here in the next month or so and get that reopened to all traffic. So that may also have a positive impact on the concerns he had.
okay. So we had somebody,
We have a motion from D. Tomaso, no second as of yet.
any seconds?
I'll second.
Wagner?
Okay, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? No? Okay. Thank you for bringing that up. It's getting a little late here. Last thing is, okay, we'll go to item 10, commissioners' comments. And Joey, start with you.
No comments tonight.
Thank you. Trish?
I got nothing.
Bob?
I'm attending the Illinois Bike and Pedestrian Summit in Springfield tomorrow. And I'm happy to report that. And I'm a little reluctant to say this, but in the spirit of having good decorum, and no offense to our trustee-elect here, but we have ample opportunities for people to comment on agenda and non-agenda items. I know it's tempting to have a dialogue with people in the
Audience.
audience, but the debate portion is between the commissioners. And no offense to our trustee-elect, but we allow public comment. But to have public comment constantly throughout the meeting, it disturbs the decorum of the meeting, and I didn't want to make an objection, but I think, we should limit public comment to when it occurs, when it's permitted. That's just my observation.
Thank you.
And I'm not trying to bruise anybody's feelings, but I just think that that's the way we should operate the meeting.
Okay.
You go to planning and zoning, Jason Jarrett will call somebody from the audience out of order if they comment during an item that they're discussing, so.
Okay. Thank you. Jack?
Yep, nothing.
Okay. And myself, I will have to take responsibility for that, because when we first started this in a little room, it was just so very informal. And I have, just because we only have a few people out here, yes, maybe we should restrict it a little bit in reference to their comments. And, but that falls on my scenario.
I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to bust anybody's chops.
No, but if we feel that that's what we want to do, I am all up for that and put a little more of a restriction on that. I have no problems. I'm looking real quickly for comments from our commissioners, real quick. Okay, everybody nodded.
That's all I got.
That's with me, okay? So, then we go to Kevin. Any comments?
I'm sorry, did you just make your comments, or?
Yes.
Okay.
I did.
Very briefly from me. I believe, Jay, you already referred to this, but there was comments brought up at a prior meeting regarding Chatham and Harvard having street closures with the Village of Addison. As Jay noted, we did reach out, and they politely declined to reopen the conversation on those two closures. So, just wanted to mention that. That's all from me.
Okay, with that, we have nobody from the board that is official for here. I have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll
Wagner?
second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. So we are adjourning at 10:17. Thank you.